But liberty is, that's just a weird, liberty is liberty. Yeah, obviously liberty is liberty, but liberty is an umbrella term. So in my previous video about face recognition in China, etc., I had a lot of different comments and very interesting, and I want to talk about one today. And then I went into a comment thing, and then I thought maybe I just make a video about it. So let's just dive into it. This is about liberty. So this verse says, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety and will eventually lose both. That is actually from Benjamin Franklin, right? If I'm correct. So I said safety is liberty though. What does a camera do to take away your liberties? The West overused the words liberty and freedom. They have become buzzwords without any defined meaning. What liberty are you talking about exactly? It is such a broad term that you need to define it. And once you do, that you see the whole proverb you used falls apart. And that is also another reason, is because the proverb had little to do with security or liberty, or whatever. But we get to that. So then the person replied, safety is not necessarily liberty. Oh yes, it is. It's a form of liberty. But liberty is, that's just a weird, liberty is liberty. Yeah, obviously liberty is liberty, but liberty is an umbrella term. And you have to define it. That is why I said you need to define what liberty are you talking about, right? So he's talking about essential liberty is another umbrella term, right? You need to be very precise. Anyway, camera takes away your privacy. And if you say that no one who does nothing bad has nothing to worry about privacy, I would ask you to hand me your phone and your computer to look through. Well, if you were my friend and you were here, you would be able to go on my computer. You can just, I often, when my friends need to be with my computer, then they can just use my computer. And similar with my phone, I have no problem with it. I'm not going to publish it on the internet because obviously I have a lot of context and I don't know if my friends would like to appreciate it. I would put that on the internet. But anyway, you talk about liberty like it is one thing. It is not. Liberty is an umbrella term. But let's first look into what they actually meant with that, because that's quite important to understand the context of it, right? So I looked it up, and it said there was a discussion between two people, Siegel and Wittes. I don't know how to say that in English, but in Dutch we would say Wittes, Wittes. Anyway, excuse me. So he says, he was writing about a tax dispute between the Pennsylvania General Assembly and the family of the Penns, the propriety family of the Pennsylvania colony, who ruled it from afar. And the legislature was trying to tax the Penn family lands to pay for frontier defense during the French and Indian War. And the Penn family kept instructing the governor to veto. Franklin felt that this was a great affront to the ability of the legislature to govern, and so he actually meant purchase a little temporary safety very literally. The Penn family was trying to give a lump sum of money in exchange for the General Assembly's acknowledging that it did not have the authority to tax it. So it has nothing to do with liberty in the sense that you are talking about it. So Siegel replied, so far from being a pro-privacy quotation, if anything, it's a pro-taxation and pro-defense spending quotation. And Wittes replied, it is a quotation that defends the authority of a legislature to govern in the interest of collective security. It means in context not quite the opposite of what it's almost always quoted as saying, but much closer to the opposite than to the thing that people think it means. And that is why when you are wanting to use a quote, you first need to start and look it up. That is why I did it. I thought maybe I'm going to say something really, really stupid then, right? But I already had a hunch that it was not about this. especially when I read Franklin, it definitely is not about surveilling the people. And as you see, it was about forcing you to pay more taxes for war or defense. They called it defense at that time. Defense in another country, which is basically not yours, against the native people. Anyway, let's just not get into that. But to get back to your form of liberty, what do you think that has been taken away from the Chinese people in their liberty? They do exactly the same things as we do, except lesser crime. So the camera doesn't infringe on their liberty, does it? On their privacy? In what way? It's not allowed in real private settings. That's a Chinese rule. I mean, you cannot, like where people pray or something, you cannot install government cameras, right? So that's a private setting, but on the streets, yes. And in the West, everybody has a phone, and you too, or at least you have a computer, otherwise you couldn't comment on me. And everywhere that we go on the internet, we leave a footprint, right? And many people have a doorbell, one with the camera, and it records 24/7 in 4K, and also with sound. And then you have all the people who have a camera in the car nowadays because they want to make videos when they're driving. Everything is being recorded. You cannot go anywhere. And then you have people like me walking around doing a walking rant and, filming everything around me. So what is exactly the problem when the government installs a camera in order to prevent crimes from happening? If that's the case, right? Because that is what China is doing. So I don't know, but crimes aren't allowed to be committed anyway. Or do you think that a thief needs to have its privacy when it's doing its burglary? That's kind of strange, right? So I don't think that we would agree on it, but that's fine. I mean, suit yourself. But I don't think you really understood this, what the proverb was really about. If you say that is infringing, then what about the police? Should they leave too? Because they are also watching you. They also have body cams, right? So they also have to go. What liberty, right? And that is why I want to always, that is why I'm always asking Western people, define the liberty, right? Define it. Because if it's essential, you have liberty to eat, it's quite essential, right? Liberty to breathe, it's quite essential. We all have it. A camera doesn't take it away. What is the privacy that a camera on the street is taking away from us, other than it can now know, people can now know where we are, which they can also know if they track your phone, which they can also know if you are walking past another camera. So, yeah, I don't quite understand this whole thing about it. I do understand from a Western perspective, because we do not trust our government, and that's okay. I understand that. Whether we are right or wrong, at least I don't really trust my government, allegedly, I have to say nowadays. Otherwise, I'm going to be sued again by the government. This is exactly why I don't trust my government. But in China, it's a total different story. The people do trust the government. So if you ask people in China, they will give you always almost similar answer. I'm not a criminal. Why do I care? It's there for their safety. For you to say that being safe is not a liberty, it is. It is a huge liberty. There's this other YouTuber, I think he's from Colombia and now he lives in China. I think his name is Fernando. Forgive me if I butcher his name. I think it was. He was one day walking the streets in China. And he said, yeah, I cannot walk like this in Colombia because I might get robbed. I feel safe here. I can just leave my camera everywhere I want. I cannot do that back home. And then he said, that's freedom. And it is. And in the comment section on the video where you placed this comment, two people just came back from China and they felt so safe. And these people are from Sweden. And they said, yeah, when we are at home, we have to always constantly look back if something is going to happen to us. We felt so free in China. So to say that being safe is not a liberty is just totally wrong. I hope with at least that aspect we can totally agree upon now, right? Anyway, I just want to make a video to make this understand, as especially the proverb was nothing about security or nothing about liberty in the sense that you used it, right? So honestly, next time when you read a proverb which you like to hear, it is always a good thing to look up what it was actually about before you start using it. Because obviously he was a president, right? Wasn't Franklin? Yeah. He's on the dollar bill, right? And obviously he didn't care about the privacy of the citizens. Otherwise, they wouldn't have police. If he was totally for liberty, there wouldn't be a rule of law, because every law is taking a little bit away from your liberty, right? Because you are being restricted in that you cannot do everything that you might want to do, right? You might want to take the car of your neighbor. You're not allowed to do it because according to the law, that's called stealing. And then therefore it's a certain penalty. Don't know what it is in your country, but the police will catch you and will throw you in jail, take away your liberty. So it's Westerners need to start to understand what is it exactly that you mean. I think a lot of Westerners are really lost when it comes to the subject of liberty. And as I said, I don't mean it in a disrespectful way, but the word has been used way too many times, while at the same time, the people mostly don't understand what it actually is and what they actually mean. Because, again, if you want to talk about freedom or liberty, whatever it is that you want to call it, you need to define it very specifically, right? Because often I also hear, oh, people in China don't have liberty or don't have freedom. What do you mean they don't have freedom, right? Yeah, there are certain things that they cannot, are not allowed to do by law, what you can do in the Netherlands or in the United States. But there are also things in China that you can do in China, what you cannot do in the Netherlands or in the United States. For example, having an alcoholic beverage in public and drinking it. In China it's not a problem. In the United States and the Netherlands it's a problem. You will be fined as a minimum, right? So I hope you try to think about it and think like, yeah, maybe reconsider what you really, and start to define what the freedom actually means, right? That would be a very interesting journey, especially for people start to think for our own instead of just copying these things and these proverbs. Because this was not about freedom. This was actually about taking away the freedom of a lot of people, the actual Americans, the native tribes. It had nothing to do with freedom. Anyway, it had nothing to do with with bashing this person or whatever. I just found it very, very interesting. So I wanted to share this video with you all, to give you all some food for thought, to just start thinking a little bit more about certain topics. Anyway, let me know what you all think of this in the comment section. But please keep it respectful and not uncivilized barbarians, unlike some others. Please like, share, and if you have not yet, then follow. Take your liberty to click on the follow button right now. Also, only the people who have enough money can take the liberty to support my work by buying me a coffee. Link is in the description. Have a great day. Your favorite half Chinese.